That's true. That's true. If I'm on her bad side, it's something I'm doing wrong.
So many different places.
I'll tell you what, it's a neat movie, and maybe we'll get it and watch it together. It's a lot more entertaining than you might think it would be. It was an amazing, amazing movie. But I bring this up because
I'm telling you, it's not easy.
Well, I have some questions.
How do you go all day?
No.
17 different classes,
Catching your bus if you take the bus, getting your ride, getting ready for school, running to school, having all that, coming back, you have homework and chores, you do all these things, and then you blah, 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 and then someone said, okay, stop and listen to God. Okay. You tune him in. Okay, how do you do it? How do you do it individually?
I thought that
Have you tried?
I'm the same adult here. I just went to the ground.
How many, have you
the
guys
only
seen
same
Prayer
adult?
Closet? Yeah, I mean, so what did Kevin do?
I can understand Matt and I, but I mean, what did
In the
Kevin
war room,
Well,
the
he
war
was
room
suffering
is,
on the
she's
floor.
made her closet
Instead of getting his hair.
and cleared it out and made a place for her to go
We're gonna go
and
back
pray.
to
What? And she has things on the walls to think about.
Sane or
And she
insane?
stopped.
Same. I'm the only same one.
And this woman's on fire. I'm gonna tell you what, I would not want to be on her bad side.
Yeah, I'm really not fighting.
I
with
would
that.
just pray around it.
That's true.
Kevin is either, really.
That's true. If I'm on her bad side, it's something I'm doing
Which
wrong.
is real brave of you about
Yeah.
that.
I tell you what, it's a neat
I'm more
movie, and maybe
center-brained.
we'll get it and watch it together.
I'm more
It's a lot
center-brained.
more entertaining than you might
center-brained,
think
are
it
you?
would be. It was an amazing,
Unless you're left-handed,
amazing
then you're in
movie.
your right mind, but that's another story.
But I bring this up because
All right.
I'm tuning in.
Looking at this
Wow.
and thinking about my lesson, how many of you guys remember the story about Jesus when he was talking about the sheep? And, well, he did that a lot. How about this one? He says, he's talking to the Jews, and Jesus said this. He said, how long, well, the Jews gathered around him saying, how long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly. And Jesus answered, I did tell you, but you do not believe. The miracles I do in my Father's name speak for me, but you do not believe because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one. That was not a popular thing for the Jews to hear. And we can talk more about that in a second. But he talks about sheep. Shepherds, you guys, there's like a sheep farm out in Fruta that passes toward the house I put a bit on. And there's a lot of sheep. And people herd sheep a little, or shepherd sheep a little different than here in the United States than they do in the Middle East. In the Middle East, the guys will take the sheep out and literally they know their voice. And they put them in a pen all together at night. One guy stands at the front, and all those allusions that Jesus says, the thief comes into the back of the gate and they're not in the front, and then takes the sheep and all that, and he's talking about Satan. But in this situation, it is so weird because they'll sing these songs, and the shepherd will come in and they'll sing his little song like, come my little sheep, come my little sheep. And they'll all come up because they'll hear his voice and they'll hear his song, and only his sheep will leave with him. And it's the coolest thing. I mean, I've watched it on video, and I've talked to professors who went over there, and it says, you would not believe it. They'll be all mixed up, and he'll sit, and a shepherd will come up singing his song and his voice, and they follow him. And it's so cool. And then the next shepherd comes up, because they, pin them so they can rest. They pin them together in like a rock place. And the next shepherd comes up and he does his song, and his sheep follow him. See, Jesus knew that, of course, because he was a shepherd. He grew up herding sheep. But the coolest thing about it, in the Middle East, of course, but the coolest thing about it, everybody there, when he said that to them, knew. Now, here's my question. How do we know his voice? Because if you've accepted Jesus Christ, you're part of his flock. And I said, it's hard to listen for God, right? It's hard to listen for God mostly because we got all these things going. I mean, how many times do you really sit and just sit there in your life? Do you do that? That was some of my favorite things when I was your age. I would go into the backyard and sit on the swing, sometimes and swing and think. But that was very rare. I mean, I'm busy. You know the acronym BUSY, B-U-S-Y?
You know what it stands for? Has anybody heard this before? You're going to have fun with this the rest of your life. B-U-S-Y. Being under Satan's yoke. The busier I can keep you, the less you're going to hear God, and the less you're going to do what he says. I'm too busy to do that. I'm too busy to do that. I'm too busy to do that. And you know what? There's so many things calling for your attention. When you're an older sister, there's a lot to do, isn't there? Yeah. I was the youngest brother. I made sure there was a lot to do for my siblings. You know, this idea, he says you'll hear my voice. How do you know it's his voice?
James 2:1.
Huh?
James 2:1.
James 2:1. What?
But wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, full of good mercies, and easy to entreat.
That's awesome. So if you hear something that gives you calm, it's a good indication, because Satan's not big on calm. In fact, like I said, being busy is an aspect that Satan uses against us. How many of you guys go home and just kind of veg and watch TV, or just do something like that? Do you do that? Okay. When you're watching TV, how do you hear God's voice?
You don't.
Have you ever sat there and watched your dad, or especially guys are bad at this. Girls aren't as bad at this. I'm not trying to be sexist. It's just true. It's the way our brains are wired. Guys can sit there with a remote and go through 150 channels, about half a minute. Commercial comes up, click. We're watching that show. Yeah, we'll come back. I don't want to. You know what I mean? And you just go back and forth. And it's the weirdest thing. Guys can think of nothing. By the way, that is a proven physiological fact by the University of Pennsylvania, which is an Ivy League school. They have proven guys can sit there and think of nothing. Girls, I challenge you, you can never do that. You can't. Physiologically, the way you're made, when little boys are born, testosterone goes up and burns half the connections between the two sides of your brain. And that's why we focus on things, and women have a hard time doing it. How many times have you been distracted and you remembered something? Ladies, think about it. You stub your toe and you remember 14 years ago when that thing was left out and somebody did that to you, and you're mad at it. You're like, I can't believe they did it. And you're like, who did what? Well, back there 14 and a half years ago, and you don't even have to have an eidetic memory. I bring this back. Okay, so you can hear his voice. One of the ways we hear his voice is it calms us. Okay, that's a possibility. How about, what else? How do you know it's his voice? And first off, how do you stop long enough to hear it? If you're the oldest sister, when do you get time to stop? That's a glorious time, isn't it? Glorious time. It's also a glorious time when you're a parent. The kids are the best when they're sleepy. They're so cute, so wonderful, so controllable, and so in one place. How much quiet time do you guys have in your life? You're pretty busy, aren't you, most of the time?
Yeah, mostly.
And even when you're not busy, do you fill your time up with other things? I don't have much to do, so let me go watch TV. Have you ever justified yourself in that? I deserve to sit down and watch something stupid. No? Not so much? You're hilarious. All right. Right now it's quiet. How many of you guys like quiet? Do you really? How many of you guys have seen the Ten Commandments, the old one?
Sounds familiar.
Huh?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar? Yeah, well, some of us have seen it. In the movie, Moses comes up to the burning bush and you hear,
Moses,
Yes.
I, the Lord, am God.
what's your name?
I am.
Okay. Yahweh. That's not a Yahweh. He was scared. Just kidding.
He had this big voice. Does God talk in a big voice? He can.
Believe me, he can. If he wants to use it, he's really good at it. He can.
He can talk in any voice. How about, can he talk in your mind? Yeah. How about, do you guys remember the story about Elijah after the mountain in Carmel, and there was a contract put out on his head and he ran away and hid in the cave? In the story, he's running away. It's the stupidest thing, but it happens. He runs away after this huge miracle. He called fire down from heaven and started it raining after 7 years. It's only that. That's all he did that day. And killed 400 prophets of Baal. But does all that, and one woman says, I'm going to kill you, and he gets scared and runs away. Like, dude, seriously, I'm worried about you. I called fire down from heaven. Hello, bring him. Instead, he runs away. And he's in a cave, and God causes a big wind, causes the world to move a little bit, and then at the very end, he talks in a still, quiet voice. And that's when he heard it. God can talk a lot of different ways. And he doesn't necessarily talk all that out loud all that much. One time I was so mad. Guys, I was so mad. Something happened to me. And, well, actually, I'll tell you what happened. I was trying to expand our church building, and it took 7 years to go through the city government to do it. We had to apply for a federal appeal against the township and bring them to court so that we could try to build a building. I was so mad. After 7 years, they all voted unanimously and said, it's been a pleasure working with you. After the church of 150 spent $500,000 over 7 years just to get approval. I was so mad. Because they acted like, well, it's been a pleasure working with you. And I'm like, doofuses, you've wasted $500,000 of God's money. 7 years of this church's time. Oh, it's made me so mad. You ever been so mad you got tears in your eyes? Oh, so mad. And I shook the lawyer's hand, and the rest of the church was all, yay, we did it. Oh, God, it's so good. And which he was. I'm not saying, but I was too mad. I was too mad at those people. They were so fake. I hate fake people. So I was so fake. I went out to my car. My wife was very quiet. She saw my face. I don't play poker. I can't fake anything. If I'm mad, you can see it. If I'm mad at myself, you can see it. If I'm sad, you can see it. If I'm happy and goofy, you can see it, which is mostly. But I get in the car, I'm so mad. How dare they do that to God? And I hear God. Here's what God said. If I wanted a building on that land right now, would there be a building on that land? I could hear it in my mind as clear as anything else. Now, what is the answer? If God wanted a building on a land, would there be a building? Yes, I didn't want to answer it. Finally, I said, yeah, he waited too. When God waits, you got to answer. And the answer was yes. And I had to acknowledge that, guess what? God is God. The second question you asked me, which changed my ministry. Whose church is it? Yours. I thought I built this for you, God. Whose church is it? I'm just telling you a story of the time when God talked to me. And it was mostly scolding. And it made me cry. And I felt stupid that I had to do all this stuff for his church. And basically it was a $500,000 schooling for me. When does God talk to you? And the second thing is, how would you know? Have you ever heard people say, well, God told me to do this? Have you ever heard that? In the Old Testament, the prophets would tell you, and thus saith the Lord. I'm telling you, if you ever read the Old Testament where the prophet said, and thus saith the Lord, they never said that lightly. Because, man, if you're saying God said something and he really didn't, that's called blasphemy. He really doesn't like it. I'm lying on God. Doesn't like it. So, thus saith the Lord is not something we necessarily say unless I can tell you in my mind when God said, whose church is it? I can tell you he said it to me because there was no doubt he was saying it to me. How do you listen to God? And why is it important?
Let me phrase it this way. In your life right now, what are some things God maybe wants to tell you? You guys ever been sad? Do you think God is the God of all comfort? He is. Simon says he is. If you guys get to the point where, how many of you guys have already know exactly what you're going to do for the rest of your life? Would it be nice to know what God wants you to do? Why? Bernice, why do you think it's nice to know what God wants you to do? What does God know about you? Everything? So if he knows everything, why would it be a good thing to know what he wants you to do? You had it. Yeah, so you can follow it. Why? If I'm a loving father and I know you're amazing and you can do this amazingly, then the best thing you can find out is, okay, Father, what should I do? Because I'll tell you what, I spent a lot of time doing things I really didn't need to do. I was talking to a nurse today. She's been a nurse in so many different ways, and right now she's a hospice nurse and is amazed by it. I've never been more satisfied with my job. Now I'm telling you, do you know what a hospice nurse is? A hospice nurse is the one that sits with people as they die. You think that's an easy way to be a nurse? No, you're on a lot of sad things. But guess what? She found out what God wanted her to do. And that's really cool, because guess what? If he made you, he knows. He knows your instructions. This is a test. How will you know his voice? Let's get around the table. Let's talk. How would you know his voice? Think about it.
How would we know his voice? Well, he talked about comfort. And Satan kind of like, he was saying, he tries to keep us busy all the time, because if we're distracted and we're doing something else, then that's time we can't spend on God. Well, how do we know God? Well, the thing is that Satan, God, completely opposites. And sometimes it's overwhelming with Satan, what's going on. And you don't feel God, which we discussed a few weeks ago. But how do we know God? How do we feel God? I don't know. Ken, what do you think?
Well, I mean, if the entire world's following the busy schedule, you keep busy, homework, school, all those things, and then there's that one little group that's doing something different. That wouldn't make sense. This is unusual, this is strange. Why are they doing this?
So how do we feel God? You're saying like
Look for that one little group that isn't.
look for
Those
the
people that aren't busy, that are actually doing something different.
well, okay. That's actually an awesome answer. The thing is though is that being busy, not a sin. Now, your focus while you're busy, that can be problematic sometimes. If you fall off of God, it's problematic. So how do we feel God, and how do we make sure that we know that God's there? Jordan?
feel God when I'm reading the Bible. I feel Him talking to me in the Bible verses.
You can always, no matter at what point in time, whether you're too busy or not, you can always stop, be in silence, and just try and hear Him.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It seems that I don't really open my Bible as much as I should, but when I do, it seems whatever it is that I'm having problems with, if I'm having problems
Right
at
there.
home, if I'm just having problems at school, I just open my Bible and it's right there.
Yeah. So obviously it's important that we need to know what it feels like when God's there. I mean, it's pretty important to know that God's there. I mean, the scripture says that He'll never leave us nor forsake us. So even just that in mind, we can kind of get a sense, hey, God's always here with us. So Nish, what do you think? My brain just collapsed there. How do we feel God?
Well, I think we feel God through the people around us. Like, there's a lot of influential people in this church and in the youth group alone and outside of the church that really just act as well, not only that, but I mean, they help to get the message out and to help you hear God better, I guess.
Okay. So, do you think it's possible that Satan can sometimes pretend that he's God, and we sometimes feel Satan and think it's God?
Well, I think that does happen a lot. People think that God's the one talking, or they want to think that God's the one talking, so they don't feel like it's as bad. But a lot of the time it's just Satan trying to trick you into doing the wrong thing.
So when is it important to feel God? When you need Him?
All the time.
All the time?
You're gonna struggle all the time. Satan everywhere. You don't have any.
Bernice?
Maybe when you're feeling sad or something.
Yeah. Feeling alone, feeling sad. That's definitely important. And that's probably when we need Him the most, yeah. Well, we've been talking about our armor of God several weeks ago. And I'm going to use this analogy, but what happens when someone shoots an arrow at you and you're not wearing armor?